right, welcome to the inaugural meeting in this new building. Welcome. We're going to take some pictures here in a second, but before we get started, can we just admit this is a beautiful room, and it seats a lot more people, which is good. It's going to be great. This building was designed to last for 75 to 100 years, and this room will look good for that whole time in a timeless look. So I can take no credit or anything to do with this building since it was designed and mostly built before I was elected, but I'm happy to be sitting here now. And thank those who were involved in that. We are going to get started today with an invocation first by Tim Martin from our Interfaith Council. Tim, the inaugural prayer here.
I know, isn't that cool? You know, I congratulate Nicole on the building and all of the people who work so hard to make this a cool part of our community. It's just delightful. And I thank the commission for awarding some money to the St. George Interfaith Choir / Council for the rap tax, and that will be well spent. And we just feel a cool, neat part of this community. So thank you very much. And Pastor Jimmy Keston was scheduled to be here, as you might see on your agenda, but he's recovering from pneumonia. But he's doing very well. He said, the only thing that would keep me from not coming would be like snow. And I said, what are the chances of that? So here I am. If you'll please join me in prayer. Our Father in heaven, we are so thankful this day that we can gather as members of the community, as leaders of our county in this wonderful building. We're thankful for all those who've worked so hard and sacrificed to make this a wonderful place for us to meet and to feel proud of our county and all the things that go on. We're thankful for the good work that will happen here. We pray a blessing upon those who will participate today and forever in this building, that they might be blessed, that they might have the true desire to serve the community, to serve the county, to do those things that will bless the lives of all of us. We're thankful for this rain and snow and hail that we've received, and pray that as it melts that we'll be able to manage it and be able to truly enjoy the fruits of this moisture. We pray for thy continued blessing of moisture as we try to recover from the drought that we've had. We're thankful for all those who might participate this day, that they might feel good about their contribution, that they might remember the things they wanted to do, and they might add to the spirit and the success of this meeting and this county commission. And these blessings we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, normally we just have a pledge, but given that this is our first meeting in here, we wanted to make it slightly more special. This is a soft opening. We'll actually do a grand opening for the whole building once everything's completed. If you happen to go anywhere else in the building, you might notice that there's still some things under construction or being finished. But at least for today, we wanted to do something a little bit different, and we have a national anthem by Alice Erickson. Alice, if you want to come up, and we've heard you before. This is nice.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare
a Pledge of Allegiance by Arthur Davis, Colonel, retired Air Force. Colonel?
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Colonel, and thank you for your service.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
you gave an excellent introduction, but I'd like to emphasize something. This building and the accompanying parking garage, which you can see is still being constructed, we did not raise any money through bonds, nor did we increase taxes. These buildings were built and are paid for. Like anyone else here who's ever bought a house or a new car or something, it's all great. And then 30 days later, you have to make your first payment. And then you think, oh, how am I going to ever do this? But there is nobody going to send us a bill and nobody going to ask for a payment on this building or on that parking garage and the appurtenances there too. So I wanted to emphasize this is truly a citizen contribution over decades to make this happen. And those who are still with us, who so many years ago lived and thought of it, and who made the decisions that departments and elected officials will use excess budgets rather than going out and buying things at the end of the year that they didn't need, would put it into a fund for the future. So to everyone living and past who have made a contribution, I think all three of us say great things. Appreciate so much that sacrifice, and so you, our public citizens, could be here and take pride in this building. It is your building.
Yeah, thank you. And just so everybody knows, the table is a little bigger than the last one, but we're kind of squished here in the middle, not just because we're crazy, but this is a multi-purpose room, and the Planning Commission also uses this room, of which there's many more planning commissioners. They fill the whole table, which is why it's this big. Okay, we wanted to get, hold on, where's my phone at? Just to commemorate, again, we'll do a ribbon cutting later, but just to commemorate those who were here in attendance on our first one, let me just, look pretty. You're not smiling at the back. There we go. All right, thanks for being here. Our first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is not debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda consisting of item A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payments for March 23rd or 22nd, 2023 through April 4th, 2023. B, consideration of regular commission meeting minutes of March 21st, 2023. C, consideration of administrative adjustments of real property. D, consideration of administrative adjustments, personal property. E, consideration of applications for property tax abatement, which there are 3. F, acknowledgement of publishing notice of adoption of ordinance number 2023-1228-0, published on March 26, 2023. G, consideration of modification of the cooperative law enforcement operating and financial plan with the Forest Service. And the last item on our consent agenda is H, consideration of amended and real estate resolution number R 2023-3098, a resolution adopting a competitive reduction of property taxes for a parcel located in the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve. And that is my motion on our consent agenda.
I second the motion with no division.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. For our regular agenda items, first is a presentation. We'll turn to Ms. Susie Lafayette.
Hi, Commissioners. I'm actually going to turn the time over to our pageant coordinator. Is that your title? Allison. She can introduce our royalty today for you.
Hey, just 1 second, Susie, before Allison comes up. Is there anything going on this month in your
Nothing.
world?
Nothing. It is quiet out at the fairgrounds. 9 days.
No county fair?
No, 9 days.
9
And it's not
days.
going to snow. It's going to be 85 degrees.
I told you,
All right? Everyone here is agreeing with me.
yes.
It's not, no snow, no flurries. We're done with that. So 9 days until the
Three
rodeo.
times today here. I counted.
It did.
Three
Li-
times.
like-
3
It's
times.
ridiculous.
But
It's
the weather's looking good at the end of the weekend.
Correct, yeah, and into next week, into our rodeo, it's supposed to be, like I said, 85, mid-80s next week.
So I have great
So-
faith in many things. One of them is the power of prayer, and especially if Susie's father is giving those prayers. And so I've encouraged her to encourage him.
We've started praying already at our
That's
house.
what's happening. At the end of the week, it'll be good.
Collective prayer, though, too, so anybody else can join in as well. But yes, I'll turn the time over to Allison, and she can introduce our royalty really quick.
Hello, we are grateful to be here, and I would just like to thank my royalty and everyone that supports our organization. We had 11 contestants do our competition this year. It was held on March 11th, and it was really good. We had Miss Utah come down and MC, and then Miss Utah Director was also down to watch what we do here in Washington County, so it was really interesting. So I am going to let the queens introduce themselves. I'd also like to introduce my co-director, Olivia Foster. Raise your hand. She is my daughter. She served as Miss Washington County in 2018 and was an attendant in 2017. So we come from a line of royalty chair honors. So I will I'll pass out one of these, and you can see how many people that actually help us and the community support that we get for our competition also.
Thank you.
While they're coming up, just for the public, Washington County provides scholarship to these women. Miss Washington County receives a $2,000 scholarship. Miss Greater Zion receives a $2,000 scholarship, and the runners-up receive $500. And we pay that directly to the school. That goes to furthering their education. It doesn't go into their pockets, so if they need help with tuition, with books, with fees, we pay that directly to whether it's Utah Tech or Dixie Tech, or they go to a hairstyle school or esthetician. It goes straight to the school to help further their education. We believe at Washington County Fair to help to empower women, and this is one of the ways we do that is through this program, the Washington County Miss Washington County. They in turn will go up to Miss Utah and compete. We have 2 girls that will be going, Brooklyn and Allie will be going in June to compete for Miss Utah. And as a county fair, we also take care of all those fees to help them get to Miss Utah. So I'll turn the time to Adeline right here.
Hi, my name's Adeline Smith. I'm your new Miss Washington County 2023. I just want to say thank you for having us here today. I am currently a student at Utah Tech looking to get my Bachelor's of Science degree in dance. And with that, with my platform as well, I'm really working on advocating for physical and mental health well-being through dance and movement. And I hope to do that in the retirement homes and schools and just reach as many people as possible and show them the importance of movement. Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Hi guys, my name is Allie and I'm Miss Greater Zion. Previously Miss Washington County, I go to Miss Utah in June. So excited for another year with you guys. I am a junior marketing major at Utah Tech University, and my social impact initiative is the Monthly Move Project. So I teach monthly dance classes to the Switchpoint Homeless Shelter, a program within them, and I've been with them for about 2.5 years now, and it's so much fun. I'm actually looking to partner with a bigger company in California. So yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. Very cool. Congratulations.
Hello, I'm Riley Imlay. I'm the first runner-up for Miss Washington County and Miss Greater Zion. I'm currently going to Utah Tech University, majoring in music education and hopes to be a choir teacher. My social impact initiative is mental health awareness, pretty much just spreading awareness about mental health and educating the people who struggle with mental health, like myself, and also people who don't, so they can have a better understanding in helping people around them. And I'd like to thank you guys for your help with our organization.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Beer. I am graduating from Utah Tech University this May with 2 bachelors, one in marketing and one in communication. My social initiative is All Wheels In, which is basically providing better education for street laws and with an emphasis on motorcycles. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic.
Thanks.
I like that. Very diverse.
Can we get a picture?
Yeah.
Please?
You want a picture? Okay.
Yes.
Congratulations.
That's a longer walk than the old building. All right, thank you very much. Item number 2 on the agenda is consideration of proclamation number 2023-27, a proclamation celebrating and supporting women in the military. Commissioner Almquist.
Well, it's an honor. My father was in the military, and both grandfathers, and that on my wife's side of the family too. So certainly behind all of them at the time were women who were supportive, and now we find our military is stronger because of women in the military, and this is a great honor. Whereas although women were not officially enlisted, women have served in the U.S. Army since 1775 by tending to the wounded, washing and mending clothing, and cooking for the enlisted troops. Whereas women were allowed to join the U.S. military during the last 2 years of World War I, and 33,000 patriotic and heroic women answered the call to serve as nurses and other support roles, and more than 400 of them lost their lives while serving. Whereas during World War II, hundreds of women participated in the Women Air Force Service Pilots, acronym WASP, if some of you remember, program, and WASP was eventually won its militarization and veterans status in 1977, and would go on to be awarded the Congressional Medal in 2010. Whereas more recently, 17% of the 3.3 million veterans that have served since September 11th, 2001 have been women. Whereas the women in this great county's military service with courage, valor, and integrity, and have done so for more than 245 years of this country's history. Whereas women no-hold ranks from the enlisted personnel to 4-star generals or admirals, the highest rank in our military. And whereas the fight, perseverance, and sacrifice of our military women have left an indelible mark on the history of the United States. Whereas Washington County recognizes the importance and often demanding burden that rests on the shoulders of military personnel, and we thank you for your service. Whereas Washington County, Utah desires to recognize, support, celebrate, and honor those extraordinary women who have served, currently serve, or support a spouse serving in our armed forces. Now therefore, be it resolved by the County Commission of Washington County, Utah, that Washington County, Utah proclaims its support for and honors those women who have served or currently serve in the armed forces. Voted upon in this day of Washington County, April 4th, 2023.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
I will second that, and I also believe that at the county fair, we're honoring women in the military, right, Susie?
Yes, that is correct. At our military ceremony on Thursday, April 20th at 10 a.m. It's free and open to the public, so anybody who would like to come that day to help us recognize and honor women in the military, that'd be great. It's a short ceremony, less than an hour, but it's always one of our most touching and beautiful tributes that we have at the county fair.
True.
Prior to this, we've celebrated World War II,
Correct.
Korea.
Yep, and last year
Vietnam.
we did Vietnam. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite parts of the fair.
Yeah, and just while I have the microphone, anybody who has family who has served in the military, we have our military wall of honor that is in the Harmony building. So if you would like to submit a picture of your loved one, you can do so at military.washcofair.net, or pick up a book downstairs on the main floor, a fair book, and it has all that information inside.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Commissioner Almquist, you had a motion.
I second that
We
motion.
have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
If
Item-
you had someone, a neighbor or anyone, a woman in the military, would you raise your hand, even a relative or daughter, mother, somebody who you know of or have worked with? Yeah, it's quite amazing. Thank you. Sorry, Chair.
No, of course. Item number 3, Jason Whipple. We have a presentation for the recognition of Jason Bradley, Utah Emergency Management Association Member of the Year.
Yeah, big time.
Geez, that's a long walk from the back now. No, so this year, every year we have the association conference for the Utah Emergency Managers Association, and every year they honor one member of that association as the Member of the Year. This year it was Jason Bradley, and it was well-deserved. Jason does a great job, not only for us, but for the state. He works on a lot of committees and kind of plows the way forward for a lot of emergency management programs and emergency management items that take place in the state. So we're really proud of what he's done for the state on behalf of Washington County. And any of you that worked with Jason here in the county know what kind of work he does. He's super thorough in what he does. He's prompt, he's passionate about what he does, and so we're very lucky to have him in our office. So him getting this Member of the Year award is well-deserved, and we're just extremely proud that he was able to represent our office in Washington County the way he did. So
Jason, before you sit down, so we can give a little more context as to what this award was for, what is emergency, we know what you do, but for the general public, what does Emergency Operations Center do? What for everything that Jason just won on, what is it that your department does? Because it's important right now with runoff.
yeah, so the main purpose of our office is to prepare, respond, and recover from disasters. And like right now, we're dealing with flood. So we're preparing for that, trying to get things in place to respond to that, and to help our citizens be ready for what can come down the pipe for us. So we do that all year long, whether it's fires, floods, or earthquakes, and we try to prepare plans, have those plans in place, have equipment and resources ready, those connections with the resources that we need. That takes a constant maintenance to get those done. And then we coordinate with all of the agencies in the county and the state to be able to make sure those resources are in place and that things are where they need to be. We do a lot of training. We train a lot of citizens in CERT and ham radio, and then working in our EOC. It's not only employees of the county that work in our Emergency Operations Center, which is what EOC is, but it's also volunteers from the community and other departments within the city and the county that come and help run that Emergency Operations Center when we need it to operate. That takes a lot of work to keep on top of those things and to keep ready. And again, Jason is a big part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just can't say enough about both of our Jasons, Jason Whipple and Jason Bradley, and just the entire team at EOC. They're technically employees, not technically, they are employees of the sheriff's office, but yet at the same time, they work very closely with us and just preparing for these times when they're called on in these emergencies. And when I think of EOC, I really have to think of when we had that terrible flood up in Hilldale. And the morning after, we were up there, and at the time, our director, Pete Coolman, had already set up the command center, had a ton of people marshaling resources, organizing things. At the same time, law enforcement was continuing the search. It was a system that worked because it had been prepared for, and trained. And so you guys do work all the time, training and preparing. And we hope that you're not called on to demonstrate your skills, but I have absolute confidence that if that time comes, that the Washington County has a really incredible team in that capacity. So congratulations to Jason Bradley on this well-deserved award.
Thanks, and thanks for your support.
Thank you. Jason, you want to come up? Tiffany didn't really want to come up, but I encouraged her to.
Just hide behind Jason.
Thanks.
What do we do wrong?
I mean, you're the boss of this family. Mr. Whipple, we were with people yesterday with the airborne DPS helicopter, and we were talking about rescues and flooding, and I said, you know, we'll probably talk about that in our commission meeting. People, please, you know, don't be stupid when the water starts to come down. And they said, don't talk about it. It makes it worse. I don't know how, and I don't know how superstitious y'all are, but that's all I'm going to say about it then. We'll just not talk about it some more, but please don't be stupid. The water is going to come down. Next item on our agenda is consideration of ratification of purchase request. Ray.
Okay, this is very intimidating for me. Okay, the first thing is this ratification. This is for a couple vehicles for the assessor's office. We needed to make a deposit, so we needed to get the requisition and the PO and everything approved ahead of time. It wasn't a very big deposit, it was just $500. The vehicles were in transport. We didn't want to lose that opportunity. Tom Durant, the assessor, was able to secure a pretty good deal on those. The total, one of the vehicles is, it was $27,215, and the other one was $28,605. But they gave us about $9,000 in trade-in credits. And since then, we found out the deposit was refundable, so if this doesn't work out, we were able to get that back. And they also removed a few additional fees, which brings our total down to $38,820.25. And unless there's any questions, that's all the ratifications I
No.
have.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this ratification of this purchase order request.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Ray, we have you for item number 5 as well, consideration of purchase requests.
Okay. This first one is for the roads department. This is for equipment fuel, and a total of $30,640.60. The next few are for the tourism office. This first one is for Golf Week Ultimate Guide advertising, and this is for $15,000. The next one is for Ironman video and media assets. This is for a total of $21,250. The next one is a blanket PO for ZionNationalPark.com relaunch. This will be paid out over the course of the year and a total of $18,000. The next one is for Ironman advertising campaign in a total of $12,000. This one's another Ironman advertising campaign with a different vendor for a total of $13,300. And then this next one is for the fair. There was an original PO that was $9,758 for the fair books, which included the graphic design and freight. But in the end, when all the totals came back and we were ready to pay, the graphic design and freight costs were a little different for some changes that were made. And so this requisition is only for $1,340.24, but the entire project total is $11,098.24. So it was thought appropriate to bring this before the commission. The next one is also for the fair. This is for 6 nights of fireworks for a total of $24,050. And the next one is also for the fair, and this is the last one. This is for various promo items, ribbons, and prizes for the fair. This one comes to a total of $30,595.18. And if you want me to list all the events that those go to, I can.
We can read them here.
And unless there's any questions, that's the last one.
Any questions for Ray?
Excellent. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the considerations for these purchase requests as outlined by Ray.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ray. And as a reminder, as always, those are items that are already budgeted, and most of those, the vast majority of those were just paid for by tourism dollars, not by property tax dollars. The item number 6 is consideration of resolution number R 2023-3105, a resolution approving the Council of Governments recommendations. Todd. I see Todd? There we go.
Hello, Commissioners. As you're well aware, the Washington County Council of Governments, commonly known as the COG, met on March 21st, and there were 3 items that came before the COG. Basically, the COG is there to buy right-of-way before it's needed, hopefully while it's farmland or vacant land. And it's funded by $10 that you pay on each time you register your vehicle. So it's kind of a general tax on the entire county. 3 items came before it at that meeting for funding. All 3 got a positive recommendation from the COG members, and so now we're coming for formal approval through you guys. First one was for $850,000 from the preservation part of the fund. That was for Hurricane City for their 1100 West corridor. The second one was for $675,000 for the right-of-way for the Washington Parkway, up in commonly known as the Northern Corridor. And the third item was for the Dixie Metropolitan Planning Organization, was requesting $200,000 funding to pay for a planning grant matching funds for their Safe Streets and Roads for All discretionary grant. Basically, they had applied for a grant that got $1 million given to them, but there was a 20% match, and so they were requesting money to pay for that match. So it's our recommendation that you approve these items, and that's what we're coming for you today for. Any questions?
No, I think we all participate in the COG Council of Governments, and so we've seen these items before as we voted on them. And I thought Todd did a very good job at explaining them. Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2023-3105, a resolution approving the Council of Government recommendations, and that is my motion.
I'll second that motion with support for what the COG does, because growing up in Southern California, I remember they would put through freeways and tear down entire neighborhoods and strip the ground clean because they didn't have the forethought to say, hey, someday we might need a road here. And it was very expensive and, of course, displaced so many people in beautiful homes. That's what we're trying to avoid.
Exactly.
We're trying to gain access before we know we need to get from A to B, and before we have to, always try to play catch up, we are advancing the cause by getting this land when it's still reasonable and don't cause a lot of distress. So I second that.
And just so you know, the COG works in kind of in concert with the Dixie MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, is how we try and forecast out transportation needs decades and decades in advance. Where it's much cheaper to do that now, like you said, where access is relatively cheap, because it's just bare ground, so I'm trying to know what it is. My sister lives in Phoenix, and there was to your point, they had to put in a new freeway because there's way too many people in Phoenix. I don't know why you can't live there, it's horrible.
Yeah, it is.
But, it's hot. But the cost to tear down all of those homes over like a 20-mile stretch on a 7 or 8 lane freeway is expensive.
Right.
Besides the construction of the freeway itself, it's really expensive. So we're trying to plan out future transportation needs, and this is a piece of it. So thank you, Doc.
Yeah,
We have a motion.
one good point on this is that it is always with willing sellers also. We're not
Sure.
trying to take people's land. It's only people that are willing to sell the property in
Good point.
advance.
Right to way and access. Good job. All right, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you,
All in
Todd.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next is item number 7, consideration of resolution number R 2023-3106, a resolution approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County, Utah, and Tokerville City, Utah, for the Washington County Sheriff's Office to provide patrol services in Tokerville. Sheriff Brooks. How we doing? Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Thank you.
So as you know, we've had contracted law enforcement services for Tokerville for about 10 years. We hadn't readdressed that contract in quite some time, and costs have gone up. So they're anticipating some major growth. They have 3 major residential developers coming in, a truck stop, an RV park. So the idea is that I never want to sell them anything that they don't need. I just want to grow with them. So as it's kind of an a la carte service. So we're estimating what their needs are going to be with this growth, and we will add our patrol hours as they need. So Mayor Sip's been great to work with over there. So they're increasing, the original contract was for $10,000, and we were giving them a rate of $45 an hour. We've increased that to a rate of $65 an hour for targeted patrol service, so that is designated at 18 hours per week, and they will be paying the Sheriff's Office $60,000 a year for that coverage. So this helps out with little things like us potentially helping them out with their ordinances. I always say I never want to be the tumbleweed police, but if you need a stick after you've jumped through your hoops, then we can be there for you. So obviously I'm obligated to call for calls for service in any unincorporated areas. What this does is this gives them a better connection and designated time in their community. Things like people running stop signs or speeding on Ash Creek or a drug house in the community. So that's the kind of things that we're targeting enforcement in these smaller communities to try and keep them safe. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution number R 2023-3106, approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County, Utah, and Tokerville City for the Washington County Sheriff's Office to provide patrol services in Tokerville.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. Item number 8 is consideration of resolution R 2023-3107, a resolution approving TRT funding for capital improvements at the Tucson Center of the Arts. Pretty much Michael.
That is kind of a long walk, actually. Yeah. And so this is a request that came through a destination development request from the TAB board, the Tourism Advisory Board. Tuacahn is requesting $500,000, $250,000 out of the 2023 budget and $500,000 out of 2024 to increase their seating capacity by 280 seats, and also to add the necessary improvements with speakers and lighting and whatnot to accommodate those additional seats. So as Tuacahn is a major contributor to tourism, especially in those summer months, we feel like this is a good use of tourism dollars to improve the visitor experience at Tuacahn. As they continue to have sellout shows, the grass where people are currently sitting is not a great option, and so having those additional seats is very helpful.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, Tuacahn is a great asset in our community and a great visitor asset as well. So I'd like to make this motion, but before I do, I'd like to congratulate Brittany on being our new director of tourism. So she's been doing 2 or 3 jobs
Only 2 or 3?
She's been acting and been doing her job and the director's job. And we appreciate that. That's how we're able to pay for buildings like this. If everybody pitches in a little bit, then we'll be able to.
Happy to help.
Yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats.
But I'd like to congratulate her and make a motion that we pass Resolution R-2023-3107, a resolution approving TRT funding for capital improvements at the Tuacahn Center for the Arts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations, Brittany. She's wonderful. If anybody knows Brittany, we all love her. Item number 9 is consideration of resolution number R-2023-3108, a resolution approving a 40-acre land donation to the State of Utah Division of Wildlife Resources. Cameron Roden.
Good afternoon. So yeah, this first resolution is in support of a donation. It's a 40-acre parcel that we inherited as a part of the Bob Brennan acquisition a few years ago. He donated that to the county for potential future use and facilitation of land acquisition in the reserve. And so now we do have an opportunity to use this land as a match to a grant that the state of Utah was awarded a couple of years ago. And this will help facilitate acquisition of 45 acres of James Doyle's land in the reserve. And this is partially our contribution, but there's a surplus amount in this donation that we hope to be able to use it in future acquisitions as well. So the intent is that first we authorize the appraisal of this land, and then the donation of the land to Division of Wildlife Resources, and then any surplus value will be stored in a land bank that they could use for future acquisitions in the reserve. So that's what we're hoping to accomplish with this resolution.
So Cameron, we know what you're talking about, but that just probably, for a lot of people, that sounded like not English.
So land acquisition, yeah, I can.
It seems like you're taking land out of one pocket, putting it in another, and you're shuffling it, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What is the point of the reserve, and then jump in where you need? The point of the Red Hills Desert Reserve is an offset so that the county can continue to grow, so that you didn't, every individual landowner, you wanted to go build your house somewhere in Washington County, you didn't have to go get a permit with the Fish and Wildlife, the Federal Fish and Wildlife Service, to make sure that you didn't disturb or kill or what we consider a take of any endangered tortoises, the Mojave Desert tortoise. So many decades ago, the county set aside all that big land in the Red Hills Desert Reserve. There are private land in holdings in there still, and so the federal government is trying to get those out, and sometimes that takes a little trading between different parties, and the state takes them, and it gets relatively illegal and complicated quickly. But that's what Cameron's talking about here is somebody who owns land that the federal government owns everything around them, and they're trying to trade out to land that would be usable, and that's kind of the end goal.
Correct.
We help facilitate that.
And our role as a county isn't to actually purchase it, it's just the facilitation role, and this is how we are facilitating this acquisition.
It's what allows everybody who's lived here, built a home in the last 20 years, or a business, this is how you've been able to do it, is through this reserve.
There's one other item that I think the public should probably be aware of, is that when HCP was set up, it was set up that these lands would be appraised as if not encumbered by the Endangered Species Act. And so instead of just seeing desert land out there, it's really appraised as if it was in Green Springs, which is kind of its neighbor, and we all know the price of land there. So it does take quite a bit of work, and Cameron has, I kind of feel like this 40 acres, Cameron, has a little of our blood, sweat, and tears in it.
A lot.
I mean, anybody who lived through the exchanges, and we've made a lot of headway, but there's been a lot of headache involved, and congratulations and all that hard work.
Well, thank you.
And a little before the HCP was really created and that land mass was accumulated, and it's expanded a little bit from the original, it was part of a three-way trade. And for those of you who know where Webb Hill is, I can see the west side of it out of here, but it's the hill behind Bloomington Hills with all the towers on it. Originally, that was going to be developed, and the developer wanted to put 1,200 homes up there, probably the best views of any in the county, similar to that in Stone Cliff. However, a lot of citizens thought, that's right in the middle of our town, that's got a lot of historic sites on it, it's also got some petroglyphs up there, and let's try to save it. So a three-way trade was made where St. George City gave up parcels of land which became part of the HCP. The BLM traded land which now is Desert Preserve, well, what is it, that out on Highway 7?
It's another desert reserve of
the
a sort.
Desert Edge
yeah.
area. And then the city of St. George got Webb Hill, and then put that into a permanent open space with the exception of Sienna Canyon and the other side. Without getting into too much detail, I just wanted to stress that, you know, some people say, well, the preserve is so closed and we can't go up there and do what we want, but you can go to Webb Hill. It's completely open and has equal sort of natural features to enjoy. And back in the day, that was not easy to come by, a big three-way trade like that. So we had good partners then, and we're good partners now, and at least in this 40 acres as well.
Okay. Thank you, Cameron.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve Resolution 2023-3108, resolution approving a 40-acre land donation to the State of Utah Division of Wildlife Resources.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Cameron. Number 10, consideration of Resolution R 2023-3109, a resolution approving Raven management as recommended by the HCAC, the Habitat Conservation Advisory Committee. Cameron.
Yeah, so last week the advisory committee met and we discussed raven management in the county. As you and maybe the public is aware, we have a lot of ravens here. I've actually seen a couple flying around with these beautiful views that we have. Ravens eat desert tortoises, especially our little ones. And the study that was presented to us at this advisory committee suggested that we have as many as 3 times the number of ravens that we should to be able to have tortoises at the same time, at the amount that they're eating them. They're eating at least double the amount of tortoises that is sustainable. So they've recommended a few different control measures. And the motion that they wanted to share with you guys was that the Fish and Wildlife Service would create a raven management plan with a control measure, which would allow them to come in and control a certain number of ravens. They have to work to get those permits through the Migratory Bird Office, and so it was recommended that they consult with themselves and their Migratory Bird Office, prepare a permit so that we can implement it here in the county. And then on a kind of a local scale, our technical committee will review that and decide where and when and how to implement that permit. One of the main control measures that it would probably talk about is a technique called egg addling or oiling. And what they do is you administer a little bit of oil, like vegetable oil, on the eggs, and then it makes it so that those eggs can't hatch. And so it's kind of a form of birth control for ravens. And that's what they're recommending would be probably the most effective and least controversial measure.
Are they open for other recommendations?
They will, but that's the one that they wanted to pursue. It is less controversial than just shooting, but there are, you know, more direct lethal options that might be available as well. So,
Is it true that the director of the Raven Control Program's name is Edgar Allan Poe?
That could be true.
We don't laugh at that. No.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, as a part of passing this resolution, I just want to give a shout out to Cameron and the hard work he does because,
definitely,
you know, we've known that predators are really have a big impact on these endangered species, but yet our federal partners only want to control human activity. And so what Cameron did was he actually said, well, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to set up actually dummies, little egg, look like little tortoises and cameras. And so I think with that evidence that he was able to gather, he was able to go and get approval for this. So once again, just great work, Cameron, on helping push this forward.
Thank you, and we're really appreciative of our federal partners. It's been a long time coming and a lot of research was needed, but they finally acknowledged that it's a big problem and they're willing to help us on it. So great.
Yeah, I think your videos kind of demonstrate what everybody's been saying for a long time, so good work on that. Very compelling. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we pass Resolution R-2023-3109, a resolution approving Raven management as recommended by the HCAC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Again, just, Cameron, I hope everybody caught what you just said, because it seems like the absolute lunacy of the federal government. They have to consult with themselves to get a permit from themselves to manage them, because the ravens are protected under the Migratory Bird Act. And bless you for your patience in dealing with the federal government. Things would be better under other management, but thanks for that. Item number 11 is consideration of Resolution R 2023-3110, a resolution approving the adoption of a new translocation plan for the Mojave Desert Tortoise as recommended by the HCAC. Cameron, for the final time.
Yes, this is the last one I've got, I promise. And so this one is in support of a translocation plan that was prepared by the Division of Wildlife Resources and many of our HCP partners. When our HCP was approved a couple of years ago, this was one of the stipulations, is that we would come up with a new plan for how we're going to deal with translocated tortoises. When one area is developed, we go in, we find and remove those desert tortoises, and then we relocate them safely into another part of the reserve. And so this is changing where we've historically moved tortoises. Historically, they've been moved near the Babylon area, just south of Leeds. Now the division is proposing to put them north of Washington, between Grapevine and Cottonwood areas. And so that's where we're going to transition to moving translocated desert tortoises. There was one other stipulation in the motion from the advisory committee, and that was that on a case-by-case basis, we will consider holding the individual, the juvenile tortoises or the hatchling a little bit longer, and this is also for the raven situation. Ravens eat the baby desert tortoises, and so we want to keep them a little bit longer when they are a little bit bigger and their shells are harder, and then we'll relocate them back into the reserve. So that was the motion that they wanted to recommend for you guys to consider.
And that's included in this language, right?
Correct.
All right. Well, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution number R 2023-3110, a resolution approving the adoption of a new translocation plan for the Mojave Desert Tortoise as recommended by the HCAC.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Cameron. Item number 12, consideration of resolution number R 2023-3111, a resolution approving an agreement to borrow and display certain objects from the Southern Utah University Archaeology Repository. Nicole.
Thank you, Commissioners. So when we first started designing this building, we determined that it would be really a neat idea to put display cases on each level that really just showcased Washington County's history. So our design team, as we got a little bit further into it, reached out to Southern Utah University and asked if we could borrow some of their archaeological artifacts to display, which is currently on our first floor display cases, and they agreed to allow us to borrow them. And in front of you today is a 5-year agreement in order to allow us to continue to utilize those artifacts over the next 5 years.
Sweet.
Very good. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2023-3111, a resolution approving an agreement to borrow and display certain objects from the Southern Utah University Archaeology Repository.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Item number 13, consideration of resolution R 2023-3112, a resolution to approve a memorandum of understanding that establishes cooperating agency status for the county in connection with the BLM's development of the 368 Energy Corridor Resource Management Plan Amendment and Environmental Impact Statement. Devin Snow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Section 368 is a federal planning document that basically establishes...
I kind of picked that up from the 2.5 paragraph introduction there to this.
I thought that was well written, Commissioner. I apologize for the mouthful. It does come from regulations. There is a lot there, Commissioners.
It's the federal government. We get it.
Yes, yep.
So it's a planning document. What the federal government has determined that there is a need in the western United States to streamline energy corridors through the western United States. And so we're talking about electrical transmission lines, oil and gas, and things like that. They want to make it easier for that infrastructure to be laid down in the western United States. So that's the federal planning document. As part of that process, they are proposing to have a section of a new corridor come through a part of our county, and they invited our county to participate as a cooperating agency in that process as part of the environmental reviews. And so you've seen this before. You requested the cooperating agency status in that process. This would be a memorandum of understanding to kind of memorialize that relationship, and this sorts out what the county's involvement in that process will be and what the federal government's involvement will be in that process as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Devin?
No.
No, pretty self-explanatory.
Mr. Chair, unless you want to tackle that, Victor and Ms.
I'd like to make a motion we pass item 13.
Second.
I'm going to go with it. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes for item 13. Item 14, a consideration of resolution R 2023-3113, a resolution to accept state funding for flood mitigation measures and to approve immediate county expenditures. Jason Bradley, our distinguished, award-winning Jason Bradley.
Thank you, Commissioners. So what we have before you at the moment is, well, let me give some explanation behind it. As we talked about earlier, our responsibility is to try and harden and prepare the county as much as possible for all hazards of disasters. At the moment, our focus is on flooding or potential flooding. The state legislature has set aside funding for counties to do that, and we had put in a request for some, and we've received a $156,000 and change award for some of that funding. So what we're asking for is a resolution that will allow us to expedite purchasing. The purchasing will be fairly emergency and quick and fast and furious, and a resolution will help us do that so that we just have that to go forward as we make these purchases. We'll be able to reference that resolution. Those will include some sandbags inside Connex containers that we'll be able to stage across Washington County. That includes actually St. George City. Some flood response trailers to add to the inventory that we currently have, along with a number of other items, including some mitigation money. And I would add that part of that project is we already took delivery of 100,000 sandbags just today, which are sitting in the poor sheriff's barn at the moment while we figure out where to put those.
Okay.
Very good. One question is a little bit unrelated to this. I mean, I think my biggest concern is up along Santa Clara in the Brookside and some of the central area. Are those residents preparing for?
I hope so.
Everyone has their own responsibility especially if you're living in a floodplain, to move your vehicles out of the floodplain, get things prepared.
We've put out some fairly good public information ahead of this, asking residents to do just that. The fire departments up there have been very aggressive at helping with that. We as a county have staged materials there already, and this project will help with that. And some of that mitigation money is directed there, but hopefully the residents are making efforts on their own as well. Yeah. In one case, some of this mitigation money will probably help one of those residents with an emergency project. We're hoping that it will extend beyond that, but I would hope that residents are taking it serious and taking some initiative on their own to be prepared.
Very good.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could I add to that as well?
Yes.
The funding from the state is coming quickly because of the immediate need. They anticipate sending a funding agreement. That's not ready yet, but this resolution would also authorize the chair to sign that funding agreement when that comes in. Obviously, subject to attorney review, we'll look at it and make sure that we're comfortable with that as well.
Anticipate with that agreement we'll receive 80% of that funding up front.
Very good. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution number R 2023-3113, a resolution to accept state funding for flood mitigation measures and to approve immediate county expenditures.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
And congratulations again.
Yep.
All right, item number 15 is consideration of resolution R 2023-3114, a resolution regarding Washington County election security. I'll speak to this. We've spoken on this many times now. We'll speak on it, I'm sure, many more times, and we're just fine with that. That's great. But we wanted to, we have, the history on this is that we've heard your concerns. For those of you who are here to speak, looking at the public comment item, the next one on the agenda, we've got numerous items here on election integrity, election security. We have heard your concerns. We agree on so many points. I've said this time and time again. We agree on so many points. We agree on the destination. I have said this repeatedly, and I'll say it forever, that we care that about three main things when it comes to elections. That only those who are allowed to vote get to vote. That once you have voted, that the process is secure, the chain of custody, right? The way that the ballots are processed. And finally, that however they're counted, that they are accurate, right? The count reflects the will of the voters. And so we want to, we want this resolution here to try and tell you that your voices have been heard. Now, I can tell you that there have been, not only in public comment, some through text, through phone calls, through individual meetings, some people have said, and in public comment as well, have said, you know, we want our county to be the best county, which obviously we do too. We want you to lead out. And in some cases, we want you even to defy the law and go against it if you disagree with it. And that's something we're not unwilling to do. We don't get to pick and choose which laws we're going to agree with and disagree with and which ones we're going to follow, because that is literally anarchy. And as counties, we are political subdivisions of the state. We will follow the law. Okay, so for those that have advocated we not, I'd love to extend that to other things. Can we choose which lights we're going to run and which red lights we're going to stop at? How about murder? Can we choose when we're going to kill somebody or not? We don't get to pick and choose as political subdivisions. We don't get to pick and choose which laws we're going to follow. What we do, though, is we hear your concerns, we have our own, and we decide that we're going to go and advocate for you and try and change the laws, which is what we did. I have showed this stack before. These are the elections bills that were passed just this legislature, many of which have your voices in them, and I don't understand why you're not taking a greater victory lap saying, hey, we got some really good things passed here. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect yet. I don't know of anything. That's why we are striving to be a more perfect union. I've said that before. We are looking for perfection. I don't know that we will ever get there, okay? I certainly am imperfect myself. But we're looking to become more perfect, and we got some wonderful things passed. As a county, we feel like we have talked to experts. We have talked to many experts that some of you have brought in and that we agree with. We talk with some issues. Some of the things that haven't been passed in law, but that we've worked on. Some from Sean Smith, he brought up some good points. We have with Colonel Smith. We're looking at that. We talked to Josh Daniels from Utah County and his thoughts on how we can try and strengthen certification of machines and how we can for those ballot scanners and ballot processors. The history is that we have heard your concerns, we have agreed on those points, and we have gone to the legislature and we've made some phenomenal progress. And the biggest one being that we are now able to, a third-party auditor, this bill right here, a third-party auditor will now audit everything with elections. Every process, every person, every piece of equipment, every ballot, the chain of, everything is open to them. They now have longer than what we had before under law to do so, and there is nothing that is off limits to them. The clerk's office is only allowed to say, here's the information. That's their only involvement with it. A third party, the legislative auditor, is the one who performs that audit. I think that is a phenomenal thing. So this resolution reads that the Washington County Clerk Auditor is designated under Utah Code Section 2A1-102-23 as the election officer for county elections. Despite some belief, the commissioners are not the elections officers. Whereas the Washington County Commission acts as the board of canvassers for county elections, which is our only involvement. Whereas the county election officer administers elections in accordance with the Utah Election Code, which is a state law that has been adopted by the Utah legislature. Whereas Clerk Auditor Susan Lewis and her staff have the full support of the County Commission for the work they have provided for county elections. Whereas many citizens have recently come to be concerned about the integrity of election systems in the United States, and whereas the Washington County Clerk Auditor has held multiple public meetings and one-on-one meetings with members of the public to talk about the county's election systems and to hear their concerns about election integrity. Whereas the county commissioners have also met with many members of the public on multiple occasions to hear their concerns about election integrity. Whereas in 2022, Utah's Office of the Legislative Auditor General performed an audit of Utah's election system and control and issued a report dated December 13th, 2022 called The Audit. Whereas according to the audit, legislative auditors observed and tested election systems in every county during the 2022 primary election and found no evidence of systematic problems, widespread errors, or significant fraud. This is primarily because multiple layers of processes in defense must be defeated to undermine election integrity in Utah. I'll put in a caveat, pause that for a second. They didn't find that every system was perfect. Again, many of the changes, the weaknesses, have now been codified in law to change them, to improve the system. Coming back to the resolution. Whereas the audit provided numerous recommendations to further strengthen elections processes in Utah. Whereas Washington County elections officials have reviewed the audit and are implementing the recommendations to further secure and protect our election systems. Whereas Washington County commissioners, in hearing the concerns of their constituents, consistently and aggressively advocated for specific statewide legislative improvements to election security. Again, we advocated to get these things passed on your behalf. Whereas in 2023 general legislative session, lawmakers passed 11 bills related to Utah elections. Whereas election legislation adopted in 2023 include the following bills: HB 303, Elections Board Record Amendments; HB 347, Ballot Drop Box Amendments; HB 365, Voter Affiliation Amendments; HB 448, Elections Changes; HB 545, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Modifications; SB 127, Cybersecurity Amendments; SB 63, Election Candidate Replacement Amendments; SB 17, Voter and Voter Residency Amendments; HB 37, Voter Signature Verification Amendments; HB 69, Election Modifications; HB 269, Election Audit Requirements. Whereas the new laws provide tools and authorities necessary to strengthen, audit, and verify accuracy in future elections. Whereas our county elections officials are working on implementing the changes and requirements imposed by the 2023 legislation in upcoming elections. Whereas the new powers and protections that were adopted in the 2023 legislative session will apply for the first time in future elections. Whereas elections administered by Washington County are fair, secure, and accurate, and elections officials are committed to those standards in all future elections. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Commissioners of Washington County that the county intends to continue to follow state law governing elections, and the county supports recent legislative efforts to further promote security and to build public trust and confidence in election systems. Be it further resolved by the County Commissioners of Washington County that the county intends to follow the new elections audits and processes to prove their value before advocating for or making additional changes. That's the resolution. That's what we're willing to do at this time. Having reviewed all the evidence that's here now, we will continue to meet with people. We will continue to focus on what we can do to further strengthen elections. This is an important issue. We agree with you that it is an important issue. We're not fighting against each other on this. We agree on the issues. We agree on what we want to have happen. We believe, and in talking to many, many, many people in this county, that it's fair and reasonable we got these changes done. Can we at least have one election to let them go through the process to see how they work? That's what we're willing to do now, is to follow these laws and that were recently passed in the wins and the victories that we got in there. So that's the resolution as it reads right now.
Move to
Any
approve.
comments?
Very well spoken, Mr. Chairman, very well spoken.
I move to approve that resolution.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That concludes the items for this agenda. We'll now move to the public comment. Again, the public comment is open to Washington County residents only. One comment per person, a maximum of 2 minutes per comment. You must be, we'll go through this because you're all here. The items, we just take you in order as far as how people registered for this. And there's no, because there's things that may become up for a vote or may be appropriated in the future. These are not agenda items we've noticed up. These are your public comment period, so there's no back and forth. We can't discuss things that we may end up voting on in the future because it's not noticed as a public meeting that we're going to discuss these items. So we will hear from you. The first one on the list is April Pinkston for 2 minutes.
As you know, I am April Pinkston, and I represent the Washington County Commissioners Accountability Committee. We are utterly appalled at your behavior of the two of you, Adam and Victor, of last session. It was condescending, and people are truly ticked off. We have tried the you catch more flies with honey type approach. I tried the humor approach. That hasn't worked. So here goes. Last session, I stood before you, voted on the machine because people want to know exactly what $250,000 is buying us. Victor, when you said, I'm surprised that you all didn't stand and applaud the voting machines, I was shocked and wondered where you've been all this time. Are you even in the same room? Because we have unequivocally stated we don't want the machines. You don't believe any experts we have presented. Lester Holt of NBC Investigates reported that ES&S had 14,000 modems connecting their machines to the internet. Lester Holt is a liberal, and he agreed with all of our experts, yet you still refuse to listen. So this is what I have, after much prayer, decided. Gentlemen, if you don't start listening to your bosses that pay your salary and start doing what we tell you to by changing the meeting time so your bosses can attend, and if you don't start working harder to make our elections without interference from Cox, Henderson, and foreign entities, I will pray Psalm 109:8 daily over you. May his days be few, and let another take his office. If you don't repent and turn your attitudes around, I will, so help me God, start a campaign against you so that you never run for public office again.
Thank you.
Okay, now,
Thank you.
what I am
person
also
number two
going
is
to
Shelley.
say is that I have this flyer that I would like to give to you, and I'm going to give you 30 days notice. You either start listening to us and getting the stuff done that we ask, or I'm going to hand these flyers out to everybody, make billboards out and everything else, because we want our relationship with you
your 2
to
minutes
be,
is up.
that's okay, I'm your boss, okay?
You and every other person in the
Okay, well, that's fine,
You're next.
and that's fine, but I'm giving you 30 days notice.
That's
If you
okay.
don't start, we want our relationship to be on good terms.
I don't believe that for a second, April. I don't think you do. But that's okay. Shelley, yours is up next.
Contact Victor.
Thank you.
I left many messages. You guys don't listen to us. And we're done. You either need to start listening. Is there a problem, Victor?
Your 2 minutes is up. That's the problem.
I know, and if you'll notice on this flyer, it says you guys believe in free speech as long as it's only 2 minutes worth.
Shelley Schulte.
Thank you for detailing those items. If you saw clear signs of a termite infestation that could literally destroy your home, you'd likely be mortified and disgusted, taking immediate action to get rid of them, right? I doubt you just vacuum up the sawdust, duct tape the hole, and look the other way. But sadly, this is how our elections are being treated, pretending the problem doesn't exist, in fact, ensuring it continues by purchasing yet another machine guaranteed to manipulate elections. We have shown you through numerous emails, presentations, that machines are not secure, but none of you have a normal concern or reaction. Why would you get so fired up at us for simply wanting election integrity? It's absurd and suspicious, quite frankly, that you fiercely defend hackable machines. Your misdirected frustrations towards us should be pointed squarely at Salt Lake, fighting for your constituents against corrupt elections. It was no small thing to bring Dr. Frank, a highly respected physicist, to share his analysis of our county. Had it been for termite removal, I think you all would have sat on the front row. Sadly, only Adam attended, but apparently left after 20 minutes. I don't blame you, Adam. It was painful and embarrassing for all of us. So to divert attention away from Dr. Frank's incredible findings, Victor disrespectfully calls him insane. This was highly offensive and beneath the dignity of your office. Ironically, it was no reflection on Dr. Frank, but Victor's own projection when he passed a resolution to purchase a new machine without public input, just minutes later, admitted to all of us the machines are hackable. Now that could be called insane. Victor, we agree with you and the manufacturer, ES&S, who also admits all machines are hackable. Has it already been ordered? Has the machine already been ordered? No? It's not been ordered? Okay, well, I hope it hasn't been ordered because you have a chance to redeem yourselves. We are thrilled that Dr. Frank, by the way, who is insanely intelligent, is coming back. So if you intend to represent us, to have us believe our voices are being heard, we trust you will be there. April 19th, everybody write this down, April 19th, 6 p.m., Balance of Nature on River Road. The obvious, logical, and only solution is to stop using unsecurable machines. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Sorry, Shaylin, it's not Shaylin, but I forget exactly how you say it. But you're next, Mrs. Wilson.
Okay, I hold in my hand today a Washington County petition to restore public trust in elections. About 1,000 of your constituents have already signed, and today we would like to officially turn this into you. And I would ask Commissioner Snow and Sarah if you would please make sure this gets in the minutes for this meeting. A small handful of volunteers with very limited time have spent less than 35 hours so far, and so this is just the beginning. We'll keep collecting petitions and even going door to door until the problems in our county are addressed. But about 1,000 constituents have signed so far, and all but 7 marked all 4 items. These are the 4 points. 1, we need to improve the public comment policies for commission meetings. It's time to adopt the policies of other Class 1 and 2 counties in the state who allow open public comment before any voting and without any sign-up for an unlimited amount of people, and each person is given at least 3 minutes. Number 2, along with improving the public comment policy, we would like to be better informed as to what is going to be on the agenda several work days in advance, with links to more information about each item so we can read and understand all of the items that will be voted on. And again, these are things that all other similar counties are doing. 3, restore public trust in elections by returning to hand counting and making our election process completely transparent. Cybersecurity experts have warned about the vulnerabilities of voting machines for years. Politicians on both sides of the aisle have expressed concern about the machines. Kamala Harris said to members of Congress in 2018, quote, "I actually held a demonstration for my colleagues here at the Capitol where we brought in folks who before our eyes hacked the machines," unquote. It's something that both sides are concerned about. It's why hand counting is the solution. So that I sit next to my Democratic friends, my Republicans, Libertarian, Constitutional Party friends, and we count the votes together. We hold each other responsible to make sure our elections are safe and secure. And number 4, begin voter canvassing and cast vote record analysis. These are good checks and balances that guard against ballot stuffing and help to ensure that only valid and legal votes are being counted. Can I present these to you?
Yep. Wendy Godlewski.
Thank you, Commissioner Snow. I would also add that you, and to Sarah as well, that you add to the minutes today that we are turning in about 1,000 petitions from your constituents. There's up to 16 on each page. She's given you first packet, I've got a second, Mary Kay's got a third. And there's more to come. The petition is online. Anyone can go to southernutahnsfortransparency.com, click the Take Action button, and there's an online petition they can fill out. And I've got copies here if anybody wants to go grab 20 of their neighbors and get them filled out. And I know there's even more to come because now Balance of Nature is bringing Dr. Frank back to Utah, and they're planning on assisting us in these efforts to wake our county up in terms of the holes in our election process. This petition has 4 items, as Shalyn mentioned. First is public comment, which we would like you to make an effective immediate change. What you're doing is un-American, and we hold out hope that you guys can do better. We want to be the best county, not the worst. The second that we want effective immediately is public noticing, improving our public notice. Again, it's un-American what you're doing, and we are holding out hope that you can do better. Your March 21st meeting, you awarded the bid, the sorting machine that allows for more signature review capabilities. I asked you guys didn't even post the agenda to that till the day before at 2:39 p.m. And I sent you an email asking for how much are we spending on this and some details, and I still don't have costs. Today's agenda was posted last night at 2:47 p.m. That's just not acceptable. I emailed you all, asked you for a copy of the resolution that you just read today, and got nothing. That's on item 15. We need stuff posted several work days in advance, and links to the agendas, the things you're going to be voting on, so that the public can access them, so that we have some transparency. I know you can do better. We're holding out hope for you. The second two items on the petition are regarding to the elections. We've got a problem. Our three biggest vulnerabilities are fake voters, fake ballots, and fake counts, according to Colonel Smith, who you met with last month. And these are things that the county can do. You can't fix ballot stuffing through canvassing. You can fix the other vulnerabilities through hand counts. That's fully within your power. And I challenge you to find one cyber or national security expert without a conflict of interest who is willing to testify that our machines are securable. They're not. Many nations, that's why they've switched back. And Shasta County, California, just last week, switched over to hand counting. They've got more voters than we do. They're leading out in California. We want you to lead out here in Utah. And the state legislature did not fix our problems. It was like straightening deck chairs. It was like straightening deck chairs on a Titanic. They didn't do a third-party independent audit. In my next comment, since I'm now out of time, I was going to list for you all the ways in which they failed to correct the problems, even the major problems that are listed in this 80 pages of flaws in the state audit.
Mary Kay, you're next. Thank you.
And we can't wait until 2024. We've got a U.S. Senate race, we've got a governor's race. We can't afford to be vulnerable in these races on those elections. We cannot wait. 2023 is the time to do a hand count.
Mary Kay Welch.
Thank you. We appreciate all your efforts towards election integrity. It would have been nice, however, to have had that ahead of time so that we could prepare our comments, having had that. We asked for it and we didn't get it. 2 days ago, a very inspired man advised us to avoid conflict and contention. I think you probably all heard him. And it dawned on me that maybe all of you think that we're driven by contention and conflict. And I can assure you that we're not. That is absolutely not what we're driven by. In my limited time, I want to share you some of what does motivate us. First of all, we've carefully observed the election fraud that is happening in our country to other good people in counties very similar to ours who use the same unsecurable systems that we use. Counties with unsuspecting officials who trusted the propaganda that they received from ES&S and other vendors, and we are wise enough to recognize that the reality is it could happen here. 2, because of our horrible mail-in ballot system, Utah is much more susceptible to fraud than any other conservative state. 3, we are very possibly only one election away from a fundamental transformation of our country. Evil exists, and some people will be willing to use all means necessary in 2024 to recapture the executive branch in both houses of Congress. You have acknowledged that our county has made a difference in Utah elections before. And nefarious actors outside our state and even outside our nation know this. By sticking our heads in the sand, Washington County could be the county that tips the balance, not only in Utah, but for the nation. Your names will be on the 2024 election certification for Washington County, and we are motivated to help you make sure that our election has not been tampered with. 4, you tell us that your hands are tied and we must rely on the state legislature to fix the problems in our election system. And yes, the legislature can and has and should help. But we do have the power at our county level to make some changes. We're not asking you to break the law. We're not asking you to do anything you cannot do. We're simply providing you with information of things you can do that would make a big difference. 5, as Shalyn and Wendy have shared with you, and Adam and Sarah, please make sure that this is on the record. About 1,000 of your constituents went to the trouble to fill out a petition to share their concerns, and we are just a bunch of busy moms and grandmas, and we don't have time or resources to do it, but the constituents are speaking out. Here's the petitions. The bill that you, and I'm going to give them to you, but there's so much more I could say, especially after your resolution. I don't have time, I'm going to stop, but I just want to say the bottom line is, we love the Constitution. We love this divinely created republic, and we don't want to lose our vote.
Okay, Laura Bean. Oh, right there in the front.
I'm getting old. I don't want to admit it. Hi. Okay, so mine's going to be a little bit broader. It's really hard not to see going to public meetings to hold our elected officials accountable because you represent us as a lost cause. And at the end of the day, it's obvious to everyone that our government is not operating via the Constitution of the United States of America, and these subsidiaries of states are not either. The United States, as it is in every state, every county, every city, is simply a corporation operating via administrative law. Nobody has been able to answer this question for me. What good is swearing an oath to the Constitution in a system that does not operate in it? Anybody can do this research and see this is where we've come to in America. When one finally sees the truth about the Constitution and our founding documents, it is understandable why those in positions of administrative law make the choices that they do. So many people have just decided that this is how we're going to play the game, and if you were to step out of line, you really don't know the repercussions. It's all about self-preservation at this point for most of the people that are a part of the system or matrix, and even those who are not, but who benefit from its continuation. We the people have been coming to our elected officials such as you here today for redress of grievances, and we really haven't had a lot of success. There have been some, and you claim that you're trying, but at the end of the day, you're either beholden to your position of the corporation, or you are beholden to the Constitution and we the people. When those things are not aligned, and they're not, it's clear to me that most of our elected officials will choose the corporation. They will choose the system. It is a choice of self-preservation. Most of you know that I've studied the medical industry for about 7 years now, and at times it was my full-time job. I see the situation as really no different from the medical industry, who is beholden to the pharmaceutical corporations. They claim and lie all day long that their allegiance is to the people and to health and the greater good of the society. But again, anyone with a brain or heart can see that that is not the case. There are good people in these maligned and malignant industries for sure. There are people in these industries that are so good that they really would suffer the consequences, however harsh they may be, for doing the right thing. And then there are most of you and us who would play the game, because we all do in certain ways, and be quiet and pretend that everything is fine and dandy because our hands are tied. It's clear that we the people are going to have to make another path for restoring liberty and restoring the Constitution to our local areas. I believe that we will not be doing it through politicians. That has become so incredibly evident to me. It is time for we the people to stand up and actually claim the country that the majority of us have failed to nourish. Liberty must be nourished constantly, and it was supposed to be done by we the people. We are reaping the harvest that we planted generations ago of apathy and ignorance, and it will be painful. But those of us who have been given this calling to restore liberty are not giving up, and we are not going away, and we will only figure out a better way. I would ask every elected official who is in a position to make decisions for our community to ask themselves the question, who is my allegiance to? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, they're waiting for me downstairs for a flood meeting, and I need to be there because I make the quorum. So
Okay.
you
Darren
can
Cox.
follow me down there if you want.
I just have a couple of things. Adam and Sarah, let's let the record show that we dropped off 1,000 hand petitions today. In our being out in the community, in our county, more than 99% have wanted a hand count. Now, I'm surprised by that. I've only ran into a couple of people that says it's fine the way it is. But I'm surprised by that. The other issue that I'm really concerned about is there was 3 of us that showed up for the bid opening for these machines, whatever. I've been to bid openings.
You talking about for the ballot sorter?
Yeah, the ballot sorter. I've been to bid openings. We showed up, 5 minutes later, they said, okay, it's done. No dollar amount, nothing. We left, we come to last commission meeting, a resolution was passed. almost like it was rushed through in secret. That's not transparency. I'm sorry. We have a lot of questions. We've sent emails. All the questions weren't answered. We have sent our elections official many emails, invited her to meetings, invited her to meet with people that at least she could hear out on that would help secure our election system. Not willing to meet. To me, that's not a public official, not a public elected official. All I can say is we need to do a little better. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Patricia Kent. Patricia Kent. No, sounds like it, but it's Patricia Kent. Dana and Patricia, they're similar. When people are clapping, I get it, but we'll go with Patricia next.
The Lord said that governments were initiated of God for the benefit of man, and that he holds men accountable for their acts in relation to them, both in making laws and in administering them, for the good and the safety of society. The Declaration of Independence lets us know that we have unalienable rights. It says, governments are instituted among men, deriving their power from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Ezra Taft Benson, who was the Secretary of Agriculture in the 1950s, outlined the proper role of government. Number 4 says, this principle we must understand is that people are superior to the government they formed. Since God created people with certain unalienable rights, and they in turn created government to help secure and safeguard those rights, it follows that people are superior to the creature they created. We are superior to the government and should remain masters over it, and not the other way around. Government is nothing more nor less than a relatively small group of citizens who have been hired, in a sense, by the rest of us to perform certain functions and discharge certain responsibilities we have authorized. It stands to reason that the government itself has no innate power nor privilege to do anything. Its only source of authority and power is from the people who have created it. As the elected leader of the Liberty Action Coalition, who represents thousands of Washington County citizens, we call upon you to hear our voices and to uphold your oath of office to the Constitution, and remember your responsibility to not just listen to us, but to obey the will of the people. You tend to believe that you're superior to us and that you don't have to do what we say. Government from the bottom up belongs to the people, not the power of those with their self-righteous attitudes. I call upon our county, our state, our local, our federal governments to repent and uphold the oath that you have taken, because you will be held up by the hand of God.
Thank you. David Johnson, not Dana, David.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Okay. I'm addressing the 2-minute problem. Congress shall make no law respecting any establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The key word here to me is abridging. To shorten in duration or extent, to reduce in scope, diminish. Attempts to abridge the right of free speech. What gives you the right to limit in any way our speech? Are you above the Constitution and Bill of Rights? I think not. I would like to use my last seconds here to stand with the greatest flag in the world and let you know you need to follow what the people say.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Dana, now it's you. Dana McCabe.
Yes, Dana McCabe. Good afternoon, evening, commissioners. Fortunately, Gil left, but I did want to acknowledge him because I was waiting for the thank you to the taxpayers for the building, past, present, and future. I want you to know that although I support groups that are here and many people here, I stand on my own accord. You can feel the conflict in this room. It is palpable. It's gotten very personal, which is really sad to me. I want to address transparency. It's been talked about, but I have not talked to anybody prior to this meeting. I stand here. I was not able to attend the last commissioner meeting, and so I watched it from the luxury of my home after the fact. So the energy, the synergy was much different. I was appalled at some of the stuff that took place. I hope you guys have had a chance to watch yourself on Rewind because it just ratcheted up everything. It was kind of in your face. We hear you, but we don't hear you. We're going to do what we want to do. To the subject of censorship, so I watched it. I'm not sure who manages the Washington County, Utah page, but the comments were shut off. I feel like that is such a form of censorship. I wasn't at the meeting, so and I wasn't able to watch it live, Zoom, and do comments. I wasn't able to make a comment on there, and it is a censorship that is beyond belief. It feels like, as you guys refer to the federal government, you guys are now positioning yourself where people see you as the federal government and the silence of free speech with big tech. So you say you're with us, you say you understand, and it all sounds great, Adam, but the same speech you just gave, I felt like that's what I watched on YouTube. I hope that you guys can drop your guard and really respect that, you know, it has got personal, but it doesn't have to be that way. You say you want free elections and fair elections and everybody to trust in them. Obviously, there's a lot of people here that don't trust in them, so I just ask that you actually listen, and I do appreciate the censorship. I will acknowledge this, that nobody abided by the 2 minutes. Thank you for letting them finish.
Of course. Dana, if you'll not run away, there's a legal reason I'll talk to you about on the comments. Meetings are rebroadcast daily on TDS cable channels 22 and 108 at 10, 2, and 5:30, and available on demand at youtube.com/community education channel. That we will now adjourn our commission meeting for today.